Let's get right into it. I think I've made a odd connection. Now, let me start out by saying that I may have the monologue that Tucker Carlson was supposed to read that we never got to hear because he got fired from the show. Somebody named Emerald Robinson claims that she has obtained the monologue and she's posted it on her Substack. In order to see the full version of it, you have to pay for a subscription, which I've done. And now I have it. And I'm going to read it to you guys. But the connection that I made was very weird. Now, I just want you to see, just so you understand, in this monologue, he was going to talk about AOC, Ray Epps, and someone named Jen, we'll just say Psaki, Popsky. We'll say Psaki. So that's odd. So now let's just go to another thing here. Now remember this. On April 24th, 2023, Fox News dismissed Carlson and canceled Tucker Carlson tonight with immediate effect. Fox public statement did not include the reason for Tucker's termination. Okay. All right. We all know that. At 1 a.m., this is AOC. Let me just play this clip for you. Hold on.
Tucker Carlson is out at Fox News. Couldn't have happened to a better guy. What I will say, though, is while I'm very glad that the person that was arguably responsible for some of the largest, driving some of the most amounts of death threats and violent threats, not just to my office, but to plenty of people across the country. I also kind of feel like I'm like waiting for the cutscene at the end of a Marvel movie after all the credits have rolled. And then you see like the villain's like hand reemerge out to grip over like the end of a building or something. But deplatforming works, and it is important, and there you go. Good things can happen. Tucker Carlson is out at...
So I already said that it's kind of very terrifying that this person is in the government and that they're happy about deplatforming, which is connected to censoring and silencing and outright just dismissing people, getting them pretty much erased from the public eye. And that she's happy about that, and she thinks that it works, which means that she would have no problem doing it again and again and again to you, to me, to anybody who goes against her and her narrative. Very, very odd. But then when you look at the date, it's 1 a.m., April 25th. So it's like directly after he's dismissed, she's celebrating. Because when you really look at it, I mean, he has mentioned her on the show, but like, why celebrate? She's saying that he's responsible for the death threats that come to her office, and I doubt that very highly. I mean, if anybody has a problem with someone in the government, it's not because they watch Tucker Carlson, it's because of how the government's operating. You know, they don't like a certain thing, and I don't condone that type of behavior at all, but you have to make proper sense of it. You know, it's not because of him, it's because of you and the things that you do. But I just found it very interesting that he got fired that day, and the monologue, supposedly, that he was going to release has a lot to do with her. It's almost like she knew, possibly, and I don't know if that's true. I'm not saying that it's true. It's just a little connection that I made. But let's get into the actual monologue. Now, this doesn't show the full version of the monologue. You had to get a paid subscription for that, which I did, and I copy and pasted. And let's just, I mean, for what reason did I copy and paste it? I don't know. I just didn't want to have to. We'll forget why. But you know, I copy and pasted it. So let's get into the monologue. Let's see if this rings true to any of you. I'm gonna read this thing. So, here's the lead I'm envisioning. Sandy Cortez just did an interview with Jen Psaki, in which she demands that all authorities pull our show off the air. Huh. Okay. Now I have to know who this Jen person is. Sorry, guys. I have to know who this person is. I don't know who this person is. Oh, okay. Okay. I know who that is. Okay. So let's go back here. Members of Congress aren't allowed to talk about this. Talk like this. The Constitution of the United States prohibits it. American citizens have an inalienable right to critique and criticize their political leaders. Our politicians are not gods. I'm reading this like Tucker. It does kind of read like Tucker. They're instruments of the public's will. They serve us, not the other way around. For that obvious reason, politicians can never censor our speech or try to control what we think. That unchanging fact is the basis of our founding documents, of our political system, and our personal freedoms. As a former government official who claims to now be a journalist, Jen should know this and defend Americans' foundational principle. She refuses. Instead, Jen nods along. Oh, let me just make sure you guys can see this. Sorry. Instead, Jen nods along as a fan of Sandy Cortez and calls for law enforcement to shut down news programming. The White House Correspondents Association and various other self-described advocates of press freedom stay silent too. Apparently, they agree with AOC, or they're too afraid to say otherwise. Let's keep going. Oh, Jesus. Oh, Christ. Come on. What happened here? Sorry, guys. I don't know how to use this platform. It's distressing to watch. The last thing America needs is more public figures saying radical things. What if we came on the air 5 nights a week and called for AOC to be handcuffed and carted away because we don't like her political views? We could certainly do that. We never would, because it would be terrible for our country. Extremism is self-perpetuating. The more you encourage, the more you get, exponentially. We don't want that. We want to live in the United States we had a few years ago, where people who disagreed with one another were willing to debate directly, using facts, reason, and didn't call for their opponent's imprisonment. We'll do whatever we can to return to that standard, including giving Sandy Cortez airtime. She is welcome on this show anytime. We'll travel to meet her anywhere and give her the full hour. We'll be civil and rational and let those watching decide who's got a more compelling vision of America's future. We've asked her to come on the show many times. We'll continue to do that. Let's keep going here. This is very interesting. This really does read like Tucker. But in the meantime, because the words of our leaders matter, let's consider the substance of what Sandy Cortez is saying. She demands that our show be canceled because of the things we're saying are, quote, very clearly an incitement to violence. Is that true? Even accounting for the fact that people will tend to hear what they want to hear, it is not true. It's a lie, as anyone who watches this show knows. We are opposed to violence, not just philosophically, but in practical terms. We're against violent crime, the strong oppressing the weak. We're against the horrors of late-term. Oh, wow, he's getting into it. Oof. I don't even know if I can say this word on here. Talking about oppression, for God's sakes. We're against late-term and state-encouraged euthanasia. And above all, we're passionately opposed to the violent and pointless cruelty of the war in Ukraine, which the Biden administration could end at any moment. thus saving the lives of the innocent, but is instead prolonging purely for ideological reasons. I gotta give Tucker credit when he does this, man, because he's like reading it on the fly. This is hard. Let's go. Those are the things we dislike the most. The act of violence our leaders endorse. AOC is one of those leaders. She supports every one of those indefensible things. From 9-month, I'm sure you can see that word, the 9-month of pregnancy to extending the carnage in Ukraine. Who, honestly, is on the side of violence? Wow, this is very interesting. I don't even know if I could be reading this. And where, we wonder, is AOC on the question of Ray Epps? On J6 was a violent insurrection, they tell us. And on the basis of that claim, they've turned the war on terror against America's own citizens. We believe that is a false characterization. As we've said many times, J6 was not an insurrection, which is why no one has been charged for that crime. No guns were brought into the Capitol. No plans to overthrow the government have ever been found. But there was violence. A Capitol police officer called Michael Byrd executed Ashley Babbitt, an unarmed protester, and was praised for doing it by politicians in both parties. Sorry, let me make sure you guys can read this. Outside the building, a riot broke out. Windows were smashed. Cops were assaulted. We were offended by this on the day it happened, and we said so. We still are. We're against violence, whether it's in Chicago, Ferguson, or downtown Kenosha, or on the west steps of the Capitol building in Washington. The main question from J6 is, how did the violence start? Nearly two and a half years later, and we still can't see with certainty. But there are no clues in the contemptuous videotape. The night before the riot, for example, a man called Ray Epps was caught on camera encouraging protesters to breach the Capitol. Whew. Let's go, Tucker. The next day, as the violence began, Epps was filmed again doing the same. Was that legal? We can't say. We do know that any fair person would define what Ray Epps said to the crowd on J6 was inciting violence. Epps encouraged those around him to break through the cordon of the armed police officers and breach a federal building. What Epps told the crowd to do could only lead to physical conflict. By AOC standards, Ray Epps should be punished for inciting violence. But Epps hasn't been punished, unlike more than 1,000 other Americans who were not caught on camera encouraging crimes. Ray Epps, make sure you guys can read this. Ray Epps has never been arrested. In fact, he's been rewarded generously by the left. Epps is currently being defended with a great veracity by neoliberal Democrats. His lawyer is a liberal activist who once worked for the Democratic Party, as well as its primary law firm, Perkins Coie. He now works with Hillary Clinton co-defendant David Brock. Epps was even defended by the J6 committee, despite the fact he's the only person we've seen on camera encouraging the breach of the Capitol. And then it's like literally talking about like what he wants to see on camera. So like details of Kinzinger and Epps here. I don't know what the details would be. Maybe a picture or something. Then it goes back into the monologue. Last night, Epps appeared on the Democratic Party's biggest television show, 60 Minutes, on CBS, to attack this show for asking questions about who he is and why he's never been arrested for what he did on J 6th. Insert 60 Minutes clips here. Then we go back to the monologue. Man, big shout out to Tucker for being able to just read like this. Jeez. I'm telling you guys, reading on camera is different than just reading at home. As we have so often with his newly ally AOC, we've asked Ray Epps on the show many times. We'll continue to do that. But given its historical and present political significance, we wanted as many perspectives on the matter as possible. So we've spoken for more than an hour to the man who was in charge of security that day, the former head of Capitol Police, Stephen Sund. Oh, man. And then, you guys can't see it here, clips of Stephen showing that, really? That's really deep. Let's keep going. As we spoke to Stephen about intel and the FBI officers in the crowd, and then clip here, more undercover feds than he's ever seen at a demonstration. Now, my question to that is, how would that gentleman know what an undercover person looks like? They make sure to be dressed like everybody else. They make sure to have no defining qualities, and they definitely make sure not to be wearing anything in sequence with each other, so they could be identified that way. So I don't really see how that could even be possible, but this is just what it says. And we spoke about Ray Epps, and then include clip here, also include the clip where he says that half of the intel community is run by jeez-a-loo, Tucker. Tucker, jeez. I'm thinking it's better we don't have a guest with this. That way we can stay precise in what we say. I think that's just him like adding to it and just saying like, no guest, like let's just do it ourselves. So he's just like writing it up basically. And then he has to show this to somebody. And then after he showed it to somebody, he was gone, I guess. This is very, very wild monologue. If that's real, then very telling. Very, very telling. But I'll let you guys decide. I know I read it terribly, but it did read like Tucker at points. I don't know. I really don't know, and I can't verify that it's true. This person, again, her name is Emerald Robinson from The Right Way. And she has the whole thing, and she claims that she got it. She doesn't explain how or where she got it from. I don't know. I have no idea. But I just wanted to show you guys that. Like the video. Share the video if possible. If this video even stays up. I'm not even sure. But other than that, I am out.